Officials say they now have DNA evidence and text messages revealing a potential motive for the killer. We now go to NTD's Jack Bradley at Utah County Jail. Jack, break this down for us. What more do we know about the suspect?
Well, Don, behind me is where 22-year-old Tyler Robinson is being held without bail at Utah County Jail. Robinson is the sole suspect involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which happened last Wednesday in front of a crowd of thousands of people. Investigators are now releasing new details about this case, including that Robinson allegedly made text messages in which he said that he has the chance to kill Charlie Kirk and that he would. Additionally, investigators also say new DNA evidence may link back to the suspect, including a screwdriver found on the roof about 200 yards away from Kirk, where the shooter shot Charlie Kirk from, and also a towel wrapped around the rifle that was abandoned in a nearby wooded area. Here's FBI Director Kash Patel on this morning.
And I can report today that the DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody. The father informed us, per interview of him, that he looked at the video that we released that evening and the enhanced photos and identified the suspect. His family has collectively told investigators that he subscribed to left-wing ideology, and even more so in these last couple of years. And he had a text message exchange, he the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
Patel also said that the FBI is investigating a Discord app that Robinson was allegedly a part of with a group of people, and Patel said that there are more people to be investigated on there. Now, additionally, Utah Governor Spencer Cox yesterday said that while Robinson is not being cooperative right now, his transgender boyfriend roommate is being cooperative with investigators. Take a look.
He's not cooperating, but all the people around him are cooperating, and I think that's very important. There were reports yesterday that we can confirm that his roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. That's information that the FBI had mentioned yesterday. We can confirm that as well, and that he is cooperating with authorities as well.
Now, a large memorial was held in Washington, D.C. on Sunday with a group of about 85 members of Congress attending, a large number of Washingtonians, and also people from Kirk's home state of Arizona. Back to you, Don.
And Jack, the Utah governor has said that he will pursue the death penalty if Tyler Robinson is guilty. What are the next steps in this case?
Well, Robinson will appear for trial in his first court appearance on Tuesday, tomorrow. He faces charges of aggravated murder and also felony discharge of a firearm and obstruction of justice. But the aggravated murder one is the one, if convicted, he could face the death penalty on in the state of Utah. And also, there will be a large memorial service for Charlie Kirk on Sunday in Arizona, in a stadium that can hold up to 60,000 people, and President Trump said that he will attend. Back to you, Don.
Okay, Jack, thank you. And joining us now to discuss the assassination of Charlie Kirk is Kyle Scheidler, Director and Senior Analyst for Homeland Security and Counterterrorism at the Center for Security Policy and editor of the book Unmasking Antifa: 5 Perspectives on a Growing Threat. Good afternoon, Kyle. First off, how are you looking at the slogans engraved into the bullet casings of this case? For example, "Hey, fascist, catch." What does it tell us?
Well, there were a number of engravings on the casings of the found around the firearm, all of which are reflective of an anti-fascist ideology or an Antifa ideology held by the alleged shooter. There has been some commentary in the press that these statements also appear in various video games, but this is really obfuscation. The reality is that clearly the shooter had an Antifa ideology, he had an anti-fascist ideology, and he intended to communicate that to supporters of that ideology. And if you look out on social media, we can see Antifa groups, anarchist organizations who ascribe to this ideology, understood the message that was being sent to them, and they agreed with it.
So explain for us specifically, one of the casings had the World War II era Italian song, O Bella Ciao, engraved on it. What does that mean?
Well, O Bella Ciao is an Italian anti-fascist song that's very popular among the far left and in anti-fascist communities. It's the basis of numerous Antifa memes, videos, and the like. It would have been a very clearly recognizable symbol to members of that community, whereas to the rest of us, it's fairly obscure.
By your assessment, how credible or reliable are these indicators of ideology, like the bullet casing inscriptions?
Well, I think that the one clear, obvious fact that one has to consider is that the assailant murdered Charlie Kirk. So they did what all anti-fascists seek to do, which is use violence to shut down and oppose those they accuse of being fascists. So that is the fundamental anti-fascist act which the assailant allegedly committed. All Antifa groups will recognize through that act alone that the participant was an anti-fascist or was Antifa. So the idea that someone needs to be a card-carrying member of an organization in order to claim the title of Antifa is simply not true. All they have to do is take the actions that Antifa calls for them to take, and this individual allegedly did that.
Can we as well get your comments on, if you go online, you can barely, scroll past 5 posts before seeing someone celebrating Kirk's death, and this is happening in some circles. What implication does it have potentially on the normalization of political violence?
Well, here we see the fundamental strategy of Antifa, which is to create an increasing gulf between the mainstream political elements in the country. So obviously, conservatives are mourning the death of Charlie Kirk, but what we have seen is a number of individuals essentially rallying around Antifa's base ideology, saying that Kirk deserved this, that he did not have a right to say the things that he said on college campuses, and that ultimately one cannot be surprised if someone uses violence to stop you from saying such things. So Antifa is using this event as a provocation to force members of the left or the center left further and further towards their fringe ideology. And unfortunately, I think evidence suggests that they have been largely successful over the past years of convincing people to do this. We see politicians using language describing their opponents as fascists and Nazis who need to be opposed with force. We see media organizations defending Antifa members and Antifa organizations, comparing them to the soldiers who stormed the beaches of Normandy. So unfortunately, that propaganda is playing exactly into Antifa's hands the way that they intend.
And what role are online platforms playing, like, for example, Reddit and Discord being accused of fostering radical ideology?
Well, a lot of the actual activity takes place offline, but there are a number of places where these subcultures interact and individuals are able to participate. And we see that, appear to see that in this case. It also allows Antifa ideology and recruiters to reach out to people that they don't have firsthand interactions with in order to convince them of their cause and give them a place to bring maybe confused or uneducated individuals into their sphere and begin to radicalize them with this material. And that appears to be the case here.
So how do we protect ourselves against these extremist ideology?
Well, we need superior education for our federal, state, and local law enforcement officers. They need to understand what they are looking at when they see these kinds of slogans and images, whether it's online or in graffiti at a protest. if they don't have the education to recognize what they see, they are not going to be able to send alarm bells further up the chain to determine whether an individual or a group ought to be investigated. And unfortunately, we've seen that play out time and time again, that law enforcement hasn't received the training that they need on these kinds of cases to understand what they're seeing. And so after the fact, we find that they're often scrambling to identify the messages that are being sent by perpetrators like this.
And just one last question. How do we prevent political violence such as this from happening again in the future?
Well, ultimately, you can never completely prevent political violence, but I think it is very, very important that elements of the political mainstream, whether right or left, get out in front and say this is unacceptable. And specifically that Antifa and anti-fascist ideology is unacceptable, that labeling your opponents, labeling half the country fascists is unacceptable. Any other response, if it's, a sort of a both sides response, is going to be insufficient. They have to specifically condemn this act. They have to specifically condemn these far left Antifa and anarchist actors and say that they want to see an end to it.
Okay, Kyle, thank you for speaking to us today.
Thank you.
Coming up, we sit down with Rob Schneider, comedian.